You know, I like Mother's Basement. Jeff's entertaining, pretty informative, and is frankly a better anime-tuber than I ever will be. But I have completely lost my ability to take him seriously when he talks about Naruto. And no, it's not just because of that one YouTube video that shows that his "Why Naruto was better than you think it was" video was so lacking in substance you can replace every noun and make it about One Piece. I found that later. And that's not what this video is about. This is about how he misrepresents Naruto's power system in order to... Well, I have suspicions about his motives, so we'll save that for later. I thought what he said about Naruto in his shonen power scaling video was dumb when I first watched it, and I still do. But for some reason, I was reminded of what he said, and now I feel compelled to talk about it. Especially because I rewatched it and realized it's actually worse than I remember. This is more of a rant than my other videos, and it will be edited sparsely. Enjoy! The problem with the video is that he spends far more time trying to prove Naruto's power system is ripping off Hunter x Hunter than he does actually discussing the power system. Like, it's ridiculous. Though I guess I should have known what I was getting into when he said,
and when Kishimoto's editor told him Naruto needed a rival, he basically just threw Togashi's 3 most popular characters in a blender.
Because I had already made a video about all the actual inspirations for Sasuke, and I found his lack of research appalling. I will freely admit that Kishimoto was inspired by the works of Togashi. Even in the video I just referenced, it's clear his design is inspired by Hiei. But this is ridiculous. Like, he calls the Akatsuki a ripoff of the Phantom Troop as if A. Togashi created the idea of villains working together, and B. the Akatsuki don't operate completely differently to the point where the only thing they have in common is being a team of criminals. The Akatsuki have far more in common with the agents of Dio if we're being honest. And that level of comparison ebbs through the whole segment in what feels like a real attempt to call Naruto a less interesting Hunter x Hunter. He refers to Chakra as borrowing a lot from aura without acknowledging the mix of physical, spiritual and natural energy it actually is that distinguishes it from its predecessors. Something he's willing to do for every other power system in the video with impressive depth. The evidence he brings up to support this claim is the fact that there's a way to test your affinity in the power system's categorizations. That's it. That's all he has to say about Chakra.
Taijutsu's just enhancement, puppeteers, shadow stitchers, and animal handlers are all various flavors of manipulator. Shadow clones and summoning are conjuring moves, only bigger sometimes. Most long-range jutsu are emission analogs.
He calls Taijutsu just enhancement, as if the idea of ninja doing martial arts is something Kishimoto could only have thought of after reading Hunter x Hunter. He directly compares summons to conjurers as if they aren't objectively different things that work in objectively different ways. He calls ninjutsu emission analogs because despite the fact he talked about Dragon Ball, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure and Yu Yu Hakusho in earlier segments, surely the idea of shooting attacks away from your body could only be the result of imitating emitters. He somehow even turns the fact that chakra natures work on a limited system dependent on the traditional elements into a negative by saying it's more limited than transmutation, as if he wouldn't just call it a ripoff if it wasn't. And if your ability lets you control anything from people to objects, well, then you're a manipulator. In case you don't see what he's doing, he's basically taking the fact that Nen is such an in-depth power system that you can basically do anything with it, and using it to degrade Naruto when what that really means is that you can do this with anything. Watch. Martial arts,
just enhancement,
telekinesis and Babidi's mental influence
are all various flavors of manipulator.
The wish-granting dragons
are conjuring moves, only bigger sometimes.
Ki blasts
or emission analogs.
And then you simply just don't mention anything that doesn't fit and behold, everything rips off Hunter x Hunter. Superman's just an enhancer who's learned emission and transmutation. Superman is gone. And you don't have to take my word for it, the march of time is enough to show how much this doesn't make sense. Because here's what I think some anime fans don't realize. Naruto is only 1.5 years younger than Hunter x Hunter. That's why when I see claims like this, I often find myself checking dates. Fun fact, the chapter of Hunter x Hunter that explains what the categories of Hatsu are was released on the same day the first chapter of Naruto came out. That means that, despite what Jeff says, things like taijutsu and the clone technique have nothing to do with Nen in their conception, as well as things he doesn't bring up like the transformation technique and seals, and at that point you have to wonder how quickly Kishimoto had to alter his story to rip off a manga that was coming out as he was writing. I've heard it said that mangaka have a 4-chapter buffer between what they're currently writing and when it's supposed to be released, so Kishimoto had about 4 days to hear about the concept of emission in that chapter, think it sounded cool, and then give Sasuke the fireball jutsu. Or, you know, he simply came up with the idea of Sasuke shooting fireballs of his mouth as something that looks impressive on his own, in reference to the real-life fire techniques ninja are known to have used to do things like distract enemies. And this is without even bringing up the original Naruto one-shot that's even older than Hunter x Hunter's first chapter. And frankly, this is me being tame because according to sources I can't back up, so take this with a Wikipedia flavored grain of salt, Kishimoto was working on the first 8 chapters for 6 months beforehand. While I'm at it, here are a few more notes on dates because people thinking Naruto ripped off Hunter x Hunter is very common. Despite how much people like calling the Sharingan a ripoff of the Scarlet Eyes giving you special powers, the Sharingan and special abilities showed up 3 months earlier, and that's not even counting how early Kakashi was introduced, with his eye covered, meaning that was also planned ahead of time. Combined with all the inspirations for Sasuke detailed in my The First Sasuke Uchiha video, like a character Kishimoto created in his first successful one-shot 5 years earlier, who was part of a group whose eyes turn red when they use their powers, I see no reason to believe there's any real inspiration. Everything you could claim is inspired by Kurapika has a much older, much more likely source than Kishimoto copying a manga being literally made at the same time as his own. Kakashi's lightning blade, and by extension the Chidori, predates Killua's Hatsu by a year and a half, and Sasuke used the Chidori on Gaara almost an entire year before Killua used his electricity to attack anyone. But I'm gonna stop there because this video is about the power system and not trying to prove what Naruto did and didn't do first. You know what about this whole segment of this video really annoys me? The fake advice-like part where he says Naruto would be better if Kishimoto stuck to his own ideas instead of focusing so much on what he copied, and says Naruto fell off because Kishimoto wasn't confident in his own ideas. Now, whether or not you think Naruto fell off isn't actually relevant, but regardless of if it did, he's still wrong. I've already shown how he's willing to ignore the more original things in the story like the talking animal summons and twist them to fit into nen categories. And when he can't do it with something like walking on walls, he calls it a JoJo's thing in what I really hope is a joke. So I guess I shouldn't be surprised he completely ignores all the ninja aspects of the power system that, contrary to popular belief, does run through the whole series. It's insane he's criticizing Naruto not working on its own ideas and instead focusing on what other series did when he's doing exactly that, ignoring Naruto's more unique traits in order to focus on Hunter x Hunter. Then again, if he tried to talk about things like chakra as a way for people to connect, or the nature of summons and their connection to nature energy and sage mode, he'd have to understand part 2 or even acknowledge it in this video outside of Daedra. Chakra is a much more connected to the world power system than Nen, but he never brings it up. He talks about the real world inspiration of Ki in Dragon Ball and its connection to martial arts. But if this video was your only source, you'd walk away thinking Kishimoto came up with the word chakra by himself. In this video about shonen power systems, he somehow manages to give a better analysis of Avatar The Last Airbender's power system and its real world inspirations than Naruto. I'm not even joking.
If I do that, then I definitely can't hold myself back from getting into how the Avatar cycles reflected in the physicality of the real world martial arts they used as a basis for each bending style, and look.
He can break down how Reiatsu is a building block of the Bleach universe and the different ways characters interact with it, but it takes on to he's talking about Black Clover to bring up Jinchuriki. And by some witchcraft, he somehow managed to not bring Kekai Genkai up at all.
Now, in theory, the biggest difference from Nen is that Jutsu doesn't place any soft or hard limits on what kind of techniques anyone except Rock Lee can learn.
No, Jeff, it kind of does, and it leads to a whole thing about stealing powers that runs through the entire manga as part of its themes and story. This section didn't have to be 4 minutes long, 3 of which are you comparing it to Nen. I know for a fact you've watched Naruto, as much as you keep trying to prove me wrong. If you stopped trying to fit everything into Nen categories, you'd probably have noticed that the story does continue to lean into its more unique aspects, like Kekai Genkai, visual jutsu, chakra as a connector of the world, and even deception. I'm currently working on a video about how Naruto did not, in fact, completely abandon strategy to become a story about giant monsters fighting each other, so I won't go into too much detail on that part here though. And then to top it off, he ends the whole section off by saying, and I quote, or rather, and I post him saying it onto this video,
all things considered, it was probably good for the genre as a whole that the third best-selling battle manga of all time had so much Hunter x Hunter DNA to pass on to its many progeny.
And maybe I'm wrong, but I think that's why the Naruto section is just an extension of the Hunter x Hunter section. So he has a backward way to give Hunter x Hunter credit for the things Naruto did and the things he believes Naruto inspired in other manga like Black Clover. The point of this video was to show the evolution and development of power systems in shonen, and this was essentially his way of keeping Hunter x Hunter more relevant than it otherwise would have been given how he was going about talking about everything. It's why he continues to refer to the idea of shooting energy as emitter type, despite there being much older examples than Nen of people shooting their attacks away from their body.
Emitter abilities that covered pretty much everything else.
It's like he completely sacrificed talking about Naruto and, you know, the work Kishimoto must have put into creating it and its power system, even if he doesn't like it, just to elevate Hunter x Hunter even more. It's so condescending and frankly disrespectful.
If the ideas and emotions that your rules of engagement emphasize match the themes and tone of the moments between the fights, it's probably a good system. And if they don't, hopefully your art's good enough to get away with it.
Though I really do think his attitude towards Naruto is an equal contributor to why this section of the video just isn't good. I mean, look at the One Piece section. He also associates aspects of its power system to Nen, but he acknowledges where they are different without trying to play it off as worse, and is willing to talk about how devil fruits reflect the tone and nature of the world and Haki reflects its themes, but he can't even pay lip service to Chakra reflecting the themes, history and spiritualism of Naruto. He even breaks down why the bounty system is so good. He goes that in depth with it. And even One Piece isn't safe from Nen.
Observation Haki is clearly inspired by N, which extends the user's aura outward to detect any movement within its radius.
If he's going to compare extending your aura out so you can detect things that enter it to a literal psychic sixth sense, what won't he compare to Nen? I'm shocked he didn't say Naruto's visual abilities are based on Gyo, which ironically would have made more sense for an observation Haki comparison. The whole thing strikes me as either dishonest or ignorant. I mean, Naruto's the only non-new gen series in this entire video that doesn't go past the first half of the anime in its analysis. I think. I haven't watched Fist of the North style Yu Yu Hakusho, so I can't tell. Hell, take the Deidara explosions praise out and the chakra test section that's really only there to compare it to Hunter x Hunter some more, and it doesn't even get past a quarter of the way through the series. And, well, I just wanted to get all that off my chest. So, watch or read Naruto. It's better than Jeff thinks it was. Also, I imagine this goes without saying, but please do not go and spam his video and channel about this. Even when talking about someone with 70 times my audience for a video that has 50 times more views than this one will probably ever get, that's not okay. And if you enjoyed the video, tell me what you think down below. Also, hit the like button and subscribe for more content. My usual content isn't like this though, so feel free to click one of these videos to check it out. Thank you and good day.